Coming from Brooklyn, do you feel like there's an attitude and a style to Brooklyn that defines how you do politics?
No one on the corner has swagger like us. You know, I think there's a Brooklyn attitude, which is a can-do attitude, which is a fearless attitude, you know, a community-centered attitude in terms of embracing the humanity of others. You know, to the extent that I can channel that as a representative from Brooklyn and Queens, that's something that I've endeavored to do during my journey in public service.
When all is said and done, what do you feel like you want your legacy to be?
That he worked hard, he authentically cared about the community, and he made life better in the time that he had to work on the community's behalf.
Hakeem Jeffries.
The crowd last night, the turnout was really, really huge. How do you stay so connected to your district while getting involved in these national fights like impeachment and House leadership?
Yeah, from the very beginning of the moment that I had an opportunity to serve in the Assembly and then transition to the United States Congress, I made the determination that I wanted to try to approximate the same level of effort and connectivity that candidates deploy when campaigning, when it's time to govern. Because many people rightly conclude it seems as if we only see individuals when they're seeking office, but not when they're actually working on behalf of the community. Now, part of that dynamic is because if you're elected to the state legislature or to the House or to the United States Senate, your job in part is to be working on behalf of the community and the constituency in the state capitol or in the nation's capital. So there is less time to be at home, but you have to make every effort to be as home as often as possible, to be visible, to be available, to be present, to be open to receiving information, criticisms, and concerns, and then to channel that into being the best possible representative that you can be, and that's what I've attempted to do.
And what are some of those main concerns that your constituents have?
The primary on-the-ground concern that is troubling the vast majority of the people I serve is the affordable housing crisis that continues to sweep across large parts of New York City, including the neighborhoods that I represent in Congress. You know, the supply of affordable housing is greatly exceeded by the demand for affordable housing.
And taking off your political hat for a second, just being someone who grew up in that community, when you think about gentrification, what are your thoughts just in general?
It's painful to live in a place where individuals fled parts of New York City in the 70s, 80s, into the early 90s, but others remained. And those that remained worked hard, sacrificed, came together, and in partnership with the New York Police Department have transformed neighborhoods that now have become attractive to people from throughout the region, throughout the city, the state, and the world. And now you have people on the ground at home, victims of their own success, because they're at risk of being pushed out of the only community that they ever called home, which they helped transform. That cannot be acceptable. You've got some communities that were littered with broken glass and crack vials that are now filled with bike lanes and sidewalk cafes. We embrace the progress, but it cannot be that those who were there who helped transform the communities and those very same folks are being pushed out and can't enjoy the transformation. That's not a type of city that any of us should embrace. We need to deal with that situation and make New York City a place that everybody can enjoy.
Obviously, you were one of the 7 impeachment managers against the president. A new CBS poll this week says that actually 65% of Americans believe President Trump will be reelected. So when things are all said and done, how do you measure the success of the impeachment trial?
Yeah, we had one job, which was to follow the facts, apply the law, be guided by the Constitution, and present the truth to the American people. The House managers made our case against President Trump and proved with a mountain of evidence that he engaged in a corrupt abuse of power and crimes against the Constitution. A consistent majority of the American people have concluded that the president engaged in wrongdoing. Though they may disagree about what the appropriate remedy should be, impeachment and removal, impeachment but not removal, something short of that, or perhaps the electorate deciding in November. And the American people, of course, have a right to take different positions in that regard, but we know consistently they've concluded 2 things. The president engaged in wrongdoing, the Senate trial, in the absence of witnesses, for the first time in American history, was not fair, because a fair trial involves witnesses and documents, and that didn't happen.
We saw Attorney General James last night, and she said you are a heartbeat away from becoming the Speaker of the House.
I just think of how miraculous he is at this point in time and how he stands in a position, some high heels away from serving as a Speaker of the United States Congress. And I know he's going to make it. It's just a matter of time.
There's so much speculation swirling around that. Is that something you're interested in, and what type of Speaker would you be?
Yeah, it's not something I've given any thought to because there is one speaker at a time, and we have an extraordinary one in Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi. I've got a job to do as chair of the House Democratic Caucus, and the best thing that I can do is to do that job to the best of my ability and keep the focus on serving the people of the 8th Congressional District in Brooklyn and Queens.
I gotta ask you this last one. You just said, Brooklyn has a fearlessness, a swagger, if you will. Donald Trump is a New Yorker. Does he have that?
I mean, we're not really feeling Donald Trump as a New Yorker at this particular point in time. I mean, he's brash, and New Yorkers, in part, have a reputation for being brash. And no longer is he a New Yorker. As I understand it, he's moved to Florida, changed his residence, and I've got a 2-word response: good riddance.